I told him I had it and it was like over here. And he said, well, don't reach for yours and I won't reach for mine. Like, he really said that to me.
Okay.
Like,
welcome, Des, aka Ninadelaflores. What is up? What's going on? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just chilling at home right now. I'm excited to finally be on because we have to reschedule this like 2 times because of my negligence.
Hey, don't go telling people I've been soft.
Listen, like, but I'm here and I'm happy I'm here.
We are happy to have you here. I know the people who follow you are super excited to kind of hear from you in kind of a different way, because like social media, Instagram, Twitter, that kind of stuff, where you be shooting off at the mouth. Those things are cool, but sometimes you don't really get to hear a person's full thought, a person's full heart. I mean, on Twitter is only so many characters. Instagram is only so many seconds you can record. So definitely excited to have you on. People get to hear a little bit about you. For those who do not know, Des, aka Ninadelaflores, on Instagram is a firearms trainer out of Arkansas, Little Rock, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, here's your Arkansas area.
Yes, ma'am. And we are super excited to have you on because, there's not a lot of people who are in your role doing the things that you do, and it seems like the people love you. So definitely want to have you on, let people hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go. So,
all right.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, my name is Desstoni. I live in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was raised in Little Rock, Arkansas. And as of June, July last year, during the pandemic, is when I officially became a firearms instructor. So, like, as in a certified instructor, like, I had credentials behind me at that point. Previously, I would just, help out and train my family members, whatever, just informal, based on what I knew, like the basic safety, teaching them how to be safe with guns after they bought them, all that, but it was nothing formal until then. So since then, I've just been training majority women in Little Rock, and I'm pretty sure that's just because I'm a woman. So a lot of women feel more comfortable coming to me. I didn't expect it to I'm not going to say it boomed because I'm kind of still in like the startup stages, but I didn't expect to get as much business as I've been getting just because I'm a woman and this is like a male dominated industry. So in my head, I was thinking, people will be like, oh, it's a woman. She doesn't really know what she's doing or what she's talking about. So I'm not going to trust her. And it's been quite the opposite. So I'm really happy about that. And other than that, I don't know, outside of firearms is the thing that I like. I just chilling with my family, chilling with my dog. Really simple. I don't do too much. I just vibes. Like, that's it.
There you go. Well, it is interesting to see more women kind of getting into the space. Last year, we had, I think, 60% of the new firearms owners were women. So obviously, if we're just talking business, there is a market for you to get into the space to make sure that you're providing the essential services for people who would desire and who would seek out instruction, but maybe instruction from somebody who they can relate to, somebody they can vibe a little bit better with. And I'm not saying anything negative about my bros, because there's a lot of good dudes out there that I personally know who
I know a lot. Yeah.
Who kill it. Like, they can teach. But at the end of the day, maybe they're a little too tactical for them. Maybe, and they don't vibe the right way. So definitely appreciate you bringing something like that to the market. Let's talk a little bit about that experience, though. That experience in you becoming an instructor. But I want to talk about kind of like when you first got into guns. Like, how did you start?
How I really started is my husband. He's my boyfriend at the time. He took me to a concealed carry class for my 21st birthday. And when I went to the class, just being honest, it was not that helpful, but it was intriguing. And I don't know if that's simply because I couldn't relate to my instructor. I had an older white man was my concealed carry instructor. And it was kind of just like, so the class was, it felt like he was just checking off boxes during class. It wasn't like really engaging. And then I kind of felt like a lot of the time during class, he wasn't talking to me. So I felt like he was talking to the men. And then when the women had a question, it was, oh, like, ask your husband, or he'll tell you when you get home. like stuff like that. So I was just like, okay, I mean, I got my license, but I'm still not comfortable. So I just kept, going to the range by myself, trying to figure it out, which I don't recommend, but that's what I was doing like at the time. And then I finally had a couple years ago, an instructor at my local range kind of, helped me tweak my shooting skills a little bit better. So before that point, I had always considered becoming an instructor because I already had so many friends and family members thinking like, even though I was a beginner myself, they hadn't even started. So it's like, I knew more than they knew. So they were coming to me for assistance, and I'm just like, I mean, I could tell you what I know, the little bit that I know, but I don't get paid for this. So eventually it was just like, why don't I just actually train and perfect my skills and go for being an instructor, like whatever. It's not that many female instructors here in Little Rock to begin with, especially not Black female instructors. So it was kind of like, also Tig, Marshall Davis, was a huge inspiration for me when I was deciding to become an instructor. Up until the point where I found her Instagram, I was just like, yeah, I want to do that, but that's not my lane. I'm going to stay in my lane. And then I found her Instagram, and I found Danny, Defensive Unicorns, and
friend of the show,
Lou Tactical. So I started following them, and I'm like, okay, this is my lane too. Let me go ahead and try to get certified to do this. So they, send the other women in 2A, played a huge role in helping me get started, or deciding to finally get started. And then it was just up from there.
Yeah, well, I know recently you actually went full-time into this as a full-time trainer, which there's a lot of folks who for various reasons can't or just don't make it a full-time gig. At what point, just business-wise, did you decide that it was a good move for you to dedicate all your time?
It was kind of just, like stepping out on faith. I'm not at a certain point in my business, just being honest, where like I probably, if I did this based on common sense, I should be solely relying on this free income. But this is the thing, I'm not in it by myself. Like I have a husband who fully supports what I want to do. And so obviously he's being supportive and helping me in that regard. It didn't really have anything to do with my success in my business. It was more so like my being fed up with corporate America. And I was finally just like, I'm not doing this no more. Like, I'm not doing this no more. So I finally just resigned from my job, and I was just half first into training. And it's actually been more lucrative since I quit. And I don't know if it's probably a direct correlation. I have more time to put into it. So obviously the more time I put in, the more I get out. So I don't regret this decision at all.
Yeah, now that is interesting because, like you said, you were doing okay before, but then you decided, hey, I'm done with the conventional job. I'm done with trading my time for your money. Like, it's not worth it. I'm gonna do this because I know I'm good at this. And then obviously, because you have more time and energy, and the stress of spreading yourself thin is not so much there.
Exactly.
You can dive into it and just kill it. And lately, obviously, you have been doing really well. You've been blowing up all over the place. Every time you post something, it's all over the place. So, yeah, no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to see folks like you, like Lou, like Defensive Unicorn, like Tig, Marshall Davis, aka My Sister's Keeper Defense. For those who care to look them up, it's good to see them in the industry doing big things. And there's a long list of females, black, white, and otherwise, in the industry, killing it. But of course, it's especially cool to see black women in the game, and being that I didn't grow up seeing that. So
yeah, definitely, cool. Me either. Yeah.
Definitely. So let's talk a little bit about your experience so far in the firearms game, because elephant in the room, you are a woman. Mm-hmm. For those who maybe hadn't noticed. That said, getting into the firearms world, it has been a male-dominated sport, like, period. There's a lot of aspects of 2A. There's a lot of aspects of the firearms industry, and you are a key piece of that industry, which is training. I don't know, industry is kind of the yucky word, like, oh, industry. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, without you, you have a lot of people out there having accidents, getting injured, a lot of people who need supervision, a lot of people who need that next step of instruction. So how's it been kind of jumping into the world of 2A? I know there's a lot of guys who have opinions about women's roles in 2A. And I'm not even saying, oh, just trash the guys. But if you want to, I don't care. Let's get spicy with it.
I try not to do that. Like, especially not the black men. They get enough of that. I try not to trash the guys. But it is annoying sometimes. And I don't think that they're coming from a place of, like, hate when they're trying to, give me tips and opinions. Sometimes I'll flat out say on my post, like, I'm welcoming them because I really don't know that much about this. But if it's something that I'm obviously speaking on because I have experience with it, then it's my experience. So you can't come in and tell me how I should be thinking based on my experience. Sorry, that's my dog. But, I really don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. I'm not going to say, like, as much as it bothers other people. You can't tell people what they should be upset by. But, it doesn't bother me that much. I just take what I need and leave the rest. Try to stay objective. Like, that's it. I just don't really get in my feelings about it. But the 2A community as a whole has been a lot more welcoming than I thought it would be. Like I was saying before, as a woman, because I was kind of expecting to always be told, like, this isn't my lane, or to, like, never be taken seriously because I'm a female. And so that just hasn't been my experience so far. It's almost like people, or a certain demographic of people, flock to me solely because I'm a woman. It's like they don't even really, and I definitely demonstrate to them that I'm not just a woman in 2A. I'm a woman in 2A who knows what I'm doing. But it's like a lot of them don't even care. They're just like, a little bit about guns, and so I'm going to come to you. And I'm not going to say I don't like that, but sometimes it feels like people are coming to me for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. The point is they're coming. But you know what I mean?
Which is good. Yeah, no, it's important that they do show up, but there is something about it. It's like, okay, am I here? And am I being accepted? Am I being reached out to because of my, I guess, identity?
Right.
Or is it because I'm qualified?
Right.
Because I'm good.
And I think it's the first one at first, and then later they realize the second one, and so that's why they keep, like, continue coming back.
Yeah.
But definitely, I've noticed that. So actually, when I first got started trying to become an instructor, I did have a couple people who flat out didn't want to help me, like at all. And they were men, obviously. And they were like? They were instructors in Arkansas, or like range owners, range employees or whatever. I would ask them questions, and it's almost like they would omit information on purpose. So I couldn't really get the full picture. And maybe so they wouldn't have the competition. Like, I don't know. But I experienced that only twice when I was getting started. But after I did officially become an instructor, it's like I didn't really have that problem. Whenever I had questions, people poured into me. They answered my questions. They plugged me in on whatever resources that they used. And people were just overall, like, really helpful. Most people were happy to see a woman in the industry taking it seriously, not like just a woman with guns trying to be cute, or like trying to, like, appease her husband. Like, he wanted me to have one. So, like, someone actually taking it seriously. So I didn't run into a lot of trouble, actually. I can't say that it was like disheartening type of trouble that I ran into. It was just kind of like minor inconveniences, whatever. I'm going to keep going because this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, that's important, and I'm glad you said what you said, because the fact of the matter is, whether somebody's trying to get into the 2A industry or is in the industry and trying to really kill it, trying to really offer an amazing product or services, however you call it, we need people to be accepting and inviting, because the 2A industry, or the community of Second Amendment, whether it's the Black 2A or just standard, across the board 2A, we need more good people in it who are qualified, who are willing to fight and train.
Right.
Period. And so, just on that subject, what do you think that we can do, whether it be at our level, just kind of regular people having a conversation? Because, I don't know if y'all know, I'm just a regular guy. I'm really not anything special. And for yourself, I'm sure you'd say the same, except you do have some certs. You do have some qualifications.
A couple. That doesn't always mean anything, but
It don't. But what do you think the 2A infrastructure, the people at the top can kind of do to help encourage people towards the bottom and people on the outside to come in and just really take advantage of, first of all, their Second Amendment right, their right to defend themselves, which is, I don't know, a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this. The right to defend yourself is more important than the Second Amendment?
Yeah.
What? Did he just say that? I did. And what do you think they can do to really just say, like, hey, we are interested in bringing people in?
I think a lot of the time where the 2A community goes wrong, and even I catch myself doing this sometimes because you get so like caught up, like you're passionate about it. You want people to like not rely on the same government they say they don't trust. And then like you want to get them, armed and trained and all that. Plus it's like your business depends on it. So I feel like where a lot of 2A people go wrong is their delivery. So maybe change that up a bit so people feel more welcome coming into this realm, I feel like some people can be forceful. I'm trying to choose my words carefully. Some people can be...
Maybe be a little less careful with the word delivery.
Listen, I try to, because I'm a person who tries to always like think before I speak, and it doesn't always, like if I'm really riled up, I don't always do that. But for the most part, I try to. So that's why I'm like, I'm trying to choose.
We definitely want to let people know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I think I know what you're talking about, but you said people could be a little less forceful. Are you talking about like the hardcore gung-ho 2A guys, my right type figures? Or what are you talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about, because I feel like that scares the average person, especially when they see like all the aggression. And it's like, that's not the person that they want to be. They just want to be an armed U.S. citizen that can defend themselves if they need to. So when they just really want to know, like, the bare minimum, I don't want to say the bare minimum, but like the basics, like what they need to know when they purchase a gun, and if I'm going to keep this in my house, and how often I should clean it, and how often should I shoot, how often should I train, what do I do if an attacker comes in and that's the extent. Like, that's the extent. That's all they want to know. Like, they don't want to learn how to like run and gun or anything like that, because that's just where they are at that time frame. Like, you can't be mad at them about that, but I feel like sometimes we can be a little bit too pushy, and it kind of scares people off, because they're like, I can't just put my toe in first. Like, when I put my toe in the water, they're trying to snatch me in the pool, and it scares me. So I'm just gonna stay back here. And then when you tell people, what they need to get started as a gun owner, instead of just saying, hey, you need to get you a good quality pistol or handgun or shotgun or rifle or whatever, you need to learn basic safety. You need to learn how to keep children safe in your home, because essentially you're introducing a gun to your house for the first time. It's really just a liability until you actually learn what you're doing with it. So instead of just telling them that, it's like, no, you're not doing it right until you get plates and plate carriers, or until you got a red dot on your pistol, or until you're training in the dark with flashlight. And then it's like, dang, I'm just getting started. It's like, you're not taking babies, because it's kind of like overwhelming.
Them flashlights are expensive, man, especially the quality ones. And God forbid you get O-light or something, people are going to roast you online.
And what's wrong with that? Like, even me as an instructor, I still don't see what's wrong with that. Like, I feel like people kind of focus on the wrong things. Like, why does that matter? Like, if that's what they can afford now at the time. Obviously, they're going to upgrade at some point. But like, as soon as they get started, you're bashing them instead of helping them. That's not helpful.
Yeah. And just for the tactical guys who are going to hop on here and be like, oh, light is trash. It is not that great, especially because there's been a high rate of failure, as in the batteries will blow up more often than they should, which is never. They should never blow up. So just for the tactical guys out there, I do know what's wrong with O-light. Hear what we're saying. I do know what's wrong with buying little Rugers. I do know what's wrong with buying high points, but it's like, you don't bash people when they're trying to get started and they don't know better. Like, you just educate them. Like, hey, this may not be the best option. I know it's what you could afford at the time, but you don't want to cheap out when it comes to self-defense. Like, you just don't want to start attacking them. I have a lot of, because Sky, SCCY, that gun, they make like a lot of pretty colored guns.
trying to market to women, I guess. So I have a lot of women come to my class with guys, and it's just like,
oh jeez,
I would just immediately start roasting them. Like, that's not what they came there for. They came to learn, man. So I'm going to let them use their handgun and let them watch how many times it malfunctions, and then like nicely suggest, like, at least you found out here that this gun isn't the best gun, not in a real life emergency. So now from this point on, we can, upgrade and look for something better quality instead of just going ham on them and like making jokes about it in class and making them uneasy. Like, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, it is interesting because there's a lot of people who would love to get more involved in firearms. There's a lot of people who would love to kind of take that gun out of their closet that's been there for like 3 years, but it's just sitting there. They inherited one, and it's, the community does have to go beyond, cool guys on Instagram, cool guys on YouTube making videos. The community is regular people. If we had 5 million new gun owners come into the industry last year, into the community rather, how many of those are tactical cool guys? Maybe like 100? 200? Okay. 10,000. 10,000 tactical cool guys.
Maybe.
Out of 5 mil. It would seem to me like we have an entire group of people who they're not going to be comfortable kind of taking that step further and coming to see even somebody like you because they might be scared off from those initial impressions when they go to look up, go to YouTube and be like, how to use a handgun. And they may see some stuff that is just like way over their head. And yes, there's a lot of guys out there just kind of presenting it in a reasonable way. But more specifically, the guys on Instagram who are amazing photographers, really dynamic in the way they set up their shots, and the gear that they have is like over the moon cool. Like, that stuff is nice.
Yeah.
It might scare somebody off, and I know we've said that like 6 times, but
I mean, it's not like, and I can't say that that's every single person's like that intention, but no. I can see how it does scare off like a beginner because I wasn't a beginner. So I mean, I try. It's not like I'm purposefully trying not to post certain things, but I try to make sure that people see me as just a regular girl. Because I mean, I'm just a girl who took an interest in firearms and decided to work on my craft and become an instructor. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not military. I don't have a special background. Like, I'm literally just an Arkansan that likes guns. And
you know what?
Started.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I had to check myself because one time I was going through IG as one does, and I noticed there was somebody's page, and they'd been in the gun game for a while. And I was scrolling through the pictures, and I was like, and they don't have no vest, and they don't have no this, and they don't have. And looking back, and even then, I think I was like, dang, is that what makes a talented or skillful person in
like,
firearms?
is it?
Like, does that even make you halfway decent? Do you have to have a stipple job on your handgun? And I'm not coming at Gucci guns. Gucci guns are sick, but that doesn't make the shooter. That doesn't make a good self-defender. In fact, having a gun is helpful, but that's not even what makes a good self-defender. At the end of the day, so. And that's something I do want to talk to somebody about in regards to not just firearms, but kind of more deeper into self-defense, somebody who's, familiar with the different martial arts that are applicable to, just real-life engagements. Not all of them are great for just fighting in the street if you have to. And somebody who is skilled in just kind of like their survival training. I would love to talk to somebody like that.
I follow someone on Instagram, and I can't even think of their name right now. I can't think of their name, but they do like Krav Maga, and it's a black guy. So that's like a self-defense discipline. And I actually took some classes myself like a couple days ago here in Little Rock. Like, it was like an introductory beginner thing, but it was interesting to see how like different ways that you can actually stay aware and defend yourself outside of going to like a permanent option, like just guns.
Right.
And so definitely going to that class didn't like diminish the need for a gun for me, like at all, because sometimes situations call for that, especially when you're kind of outsized, or like you're just in a situation where like you're in your home and you have 3-4 invaders. Like obviously you can't use your hands in that option. You can, but it might result in your death. So it didn't diminish the need for firearms for me, but I can see how that's also important. So
Yeah.
every situation doesn't call for a firearm. So I can definitely see it.
Yeah, I took Craft for a while, and definitely it helped me to be more aware of what to do in regards to like as a physical at a physical level, you know.
Yeah.
Because if somebody comes up behind you and grabs your arms and kind of locks you in, like how are you gonna draw? You can't do that.
Exactly.
It's not gonna work.
So you kind of have to like leverage your body, which is kind of what that was more so about.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, there's 100 ways to defend your life, and not all of them have to do with guns. And I know that's gonna offend a lot of people who watch this.
Yeah.
There's more than one way, you know, to defend your life. I follow a few bros who do like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I think those guys do take a little bit of heat for. I guess people think it's not applicable in a street fight. I'm not sure who would think that, especially if you've actually watched somebody do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like somebody who's a practitioner who actually knows what they're doing. Because those boys go hard. Like, there's a reason why MMA includes that, is because if they take you down to the ground, or even some of the standing up strikes, that could end your whole career. Like that stuff is.
And
both
Krav Maga and kind of just working with firearms all the time has kind of trained my eyes to always pay attention to what other people's hands are doing. It's not even like it's not even like what they're looking like in the face or anything like that. Like my attention always goes to people's hands because they're so telling, like about what they're about to do, like balled up fists or relaxed fingers or like simple things like that. And so I think self-defense is not just about guns. Like it's about not only situational awareness, which, you know, instructors preach that all the time because it can prevent you from getting in situations where you would need a firearm in the first place. So it's supposed to be a last resort. You don't want to put yourself in situations and then have to shoot that. Like that's not the point. But not just situational awareness, but also like self-awareness and being aware of like how you are perceived in public can also keep you out of certain situations. Like, for me, like just being a woman, and I know like, I don't want the feminists to like come after me or anything like that for saying that when I go certain places, I won't wear certain things just because I'm aware of like how I'm being perceived. And I know people are like, women should be able to wear what they want to wear when they want to wear it. And I get that. But I don't want the unnecessary attention on myself. Like if I know I'm going in a certain area with a certain demographic, I'm not going to wear certain things. Or like, if I know I'm going in a certain area at a certain time, I'm going to carry a certain type of purse as opposed to another type of purse. Like just being aware of how you're perceived is also self-defense.
Yeah. I mean, people don't want to talk about that, and somebody might be offended at hearing that, but you know, if it stings, it might be the truth. Who knows? Might be.
They say truth hurts.
Yeah, the truth hurts. Yeah, no, it is interesting, and just kind of not piggybacking off of that specifically, but kind of going deeper into it. We've seen a lot of folks, not just black folks specifically, but you know, a lot of different folks get in situations, not just with the police, but you know, with their fellow man who isn't in law enforcement situations.
Yeah.
Just straight up murder situations like what happened in Philly in the beginning of the year, where there was like a snow shoveling situation, and somebody got mad, and they started the neighbor who got mad started shooting the couple, and y'all could look that up if you want to. It was pretty bad. And even going into some of the situations that happen where you might see a young man get pulled over and it just kind of goes bad kind of quick. There's so many things that can happen to a person, and like what you were saying, situational awareness and presenting yourself does have a lot to do with kind of what will happen next. Sometimes there are things that are unavoidable, and that's understandable. But let's talk about that a little bit. What do you think about more specifically interactions with law enforcement and how we can do our best to just kind of minimize contact as we're going through?
Well, I think, first of all, so this kind of two different things. Minimizing contact in the first place. We should be able to police our own communities. And we say that a lot, and it sounds cliche to just hear it say it again. And it's not that I'm one of those people that think the police should be 100% defunded or anything like that. But I do think that there's a time and a place for calling law enforcement. And a lot of the time, it's not necessary for them to be called, if that makes sense. And the one thing, I'm not trying to rehash this whole conversation, because I know that Tangi talked about this or whatever on Clubhouse, and I think she mentioned it. She mentioned it on Instagram Live. So
she
I don't know
mention it on this show.
Yeah,
as well.
And okay. I'm halfway through with y'all's interview, and I haven't finished watching it yet. I tried to before this, but
it's cool. It's cool.
So she mentioned it on there where she was talking about that and basically how that interaction with law enforcement should have gone differently, and if anything, could have been prevented. And she was basically called a coon for speaking common sense. So it's I'm not trying to go rehash the whole conversation, because we get it. We get it. It could have been handled differently. But the point is, in a situation like that, with the parents being out there, the police didn't have to be called in the first place. The parents should have been able to handle that situation, and it could have been people sent in the house and the situation was over. I know my mom, growing up, if I was out in the streets fighting with some people, she would have came out there and put her foot down and sent me in the house, called everybody's parents, sent them home, and it's over. Instead of participating.
You was fighting? You was fighting these folks?
No, this is a hypothetical situation. I was never that kid. But yeah.
About to say.
So,
baby kids.
Listen, I wasn't that bad. But listen, it didn't have to go that far, is all I'm saying, if the parents were parenting instead of participating. But as far as interacting with...
Parenting instead of participating. Say it again for the people in the back.
Oh, Lord. But, okay. So... this is the thing. I feel in our interactions with law enforcement, ego gets in the way a lot when we should be just plain and cool. It's a lot of things that we as Black people, we cannot afford to do interacting with law enforcement. And I see it online a lot. Someone will share a video of a white person's encounter with law enforcement, and just hypothetically speaking on how it would have went differently if this person was Black. Well, I need us to understand that we are not white. So it's never going to go that way if we act that way with law enforcement. And as soon as we realize that, we can move on. We can come up with different solutions instead of just always having a problem. We can have solutions. Unfortunately, we can't afford to interact with law enforcement the way white people do. We're not white. History of America has shown us that. So I feel we have to put our ego to the side and all these, this parallelism with the culture that we're not the same as, and just put our egos to the side with dealing with law enforcement. So I actually got pulled over this past Saturday.
On Saturday?
So, yeah.
Did you speed? Left foot?
It was definitely my fault. I wasn't speeding, but I ran a red light because I wasn't paying attention. So I was, I just moved to the area that I'm in now. And so I was basically looking at my GPS trying to find a shortcut to the post office instead of hopping on the freeway.
Oh, you gonna go through the whole story?
Yes.
Fine,
so,
do your thing. Okay.
It's this car next to me, when the light is red, but then a car next to you starts moving. So you're kind of oh, I can go too. But I didn't actually look up and my light wasn't green.
Oh my gosh.
So I
you just went through it.
Yeah, drove through the light. And I was thinking, let me just slow down real quick. Hopefully it wasn't no cop behind me, and I looked back and it was the cop right behind me. But he thought the whole thing just my luck, and he pulled me over. And what the cop said to me, basically in Arkansas, we have a law where if you have a concealed carry license and you have a gun on you, you have to disclose that to the police. That's not the case in every state, but it is here. So you have to tell them that you have a gun in the car. If
The
you have it.
obligation to disclose.
Exactly. So I gave him my license, registration, gun license, all that. He asked me, did I have my weapon in the car? I said yes. And he asked me, where was it? And when I'm driving, normally, like, my firearm is kind of like appendix area, like right here, dead center. But when I'm driving, I put it on all the way on this side, like next to the door. So when they tell me to reach over here and get my license and registration, I'm not reaching in the same direction. I just told them my weapon is in. Like, you know, they don't have anything to be worried about. So he was basically like, I told him I had it and it was like over here. And he said, well, don't reach for yours and I won't reach for mine. Like, he really said that to me.
Okay.
Like, I was just like, obviously.
Was he joking? I hope he was joking.
He was
I'm not
serious.
trying to make excuses for him.
No, he was dead serious. But it's like, that's the social climate. And I was just like, and instead of getting,
embarrassing.
Listen, instead of getting angry or like starting to like snap back at him because Black people cannot afford to do that, I was just like, obviously. And I like clasped my hands like behind my seat, you know, like how you do like this. But except I was leaning back in my seat and I kind of just rested them there. So the whole time he could see my hands. Even when he walked behind my car, he could see my hands. It's like, obviously, I'm not going to reach for my gun in this political climate. Like, what do you mean? Ultimately, he didn't end up giving me a ticket at all. He was just like, all right, pay attention to the light next time. You know, have a good day. I'm just going to give you a warning. But I feel like that's because the interaction went so smoothly and I wasn't confrontational or argumentative or like anything like that. And I could have been. Because why did you say that to me? But it's just not necessary. I mean, it's a time and a place for everything.
Like, I know this is an understatement, but that's way inappropriate. Like, yo, like, what are you saying?
Right.
Like, I would hope that he said that with a big smile, just joking, like, ha, 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 don't reach for yours, I won't reach for mine. You know, like, just messing around.
And even if you said it jokingly, that's not funny.
Like,
but
that's
he
a
had
bad thing
face.
to say. That's, I mean, it's a bad joke, but at least it was a joke. No, not a joke. He was being dead serious.
Dead serious. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, obviously. And then the interaction just went from there. Like, but obviously that's a messed up thing to say to a Black person in this climate.
That's completely disrespectful. Like,
but I'm not going to like make it a big deal because I want to go home at the end of the day. Like, ego to the side. Like, I don't want this to turn into something it's not. So
I got caught up in the disrespect for a moment.
Exactly, and I feel like that's the problem. Like, not that that's the problem right now because we're just you're not there with the cop, but you know what I mean. Like, you can't always like show your hand, like just play it cool and just leave. That's it. Because the point is, you made it out of the situation and you're getting back home. That's it.
Something that I make a point of doing is knowing exactly where my wallet and my insurance information is, and I can usually get my insurance stuff on my phone. And as I'm being pulled over, like as I'm not pulling over right then, I'm gonna take 10 seconds to reach in, grab my wallet, because I usually keep it like center console. If anyone wants to ever try to find my wallet, it's probably there. But if you find it, I'm gonna have to do something about it. Okay. So I'll just put it right on the dash with my phone, and if I have time to reach for the actual paperwork, I'll reach up there as well. I don't need to record the situation. I don't feel like I need to because I feel like I can finesse anything. Not everybody's built like that, though. Not everybody's built in that situation. But you know what? There could be a day where you run across somebody who is just itching for a good time or a bad time or whatever it is, just not in a frame of mind that is appropriate or reasonable for, you know, a member of the peace officer corps, the police or whatever position you're in. If you are serving the public, like, you got to have a good head on your shoulders. And every once in a while, you run across somebody who does not. So that said, I feel like I could finesse that too. But
like I briefly considered pulling out my phone, and I was like, you know what? I'm not trying to like exacerbate the situation.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because I've been seeing a lot of like little videos of these lawyers, and the majority of them are white. And there's nothing wrong with being white, in case people are wondering. And they're lawyers, and they have like little videos, like 30, 40 seconds, kind of explaining what do you need to do to survive a traffic stop. And I'm like, what is going on, first of all? And they have like this kid, this dark
It's the
skinned
fact that
black
that shouldn't
kid.
even be a thing. Why do we have to think about surviving traffic stops?
I mean, it shouldn't be like that. I mean, first of all, it shouldn't be like that, and it's a shame that the people who have tragically been killed or murdered during traffic stops for doing things that are seemingly innocuous. Sorry, my SAT word got stuck, and they're just kind of doing normal-ish things, or they do something slightly dumb, but
it's not. Maybe, it doesn't warrant death. Like
right, it's not a death thing. It's oh man, if you get slapped on the wrist, that's one thing. But just kind of going back to the lawyer thing, like they'll be like, so you can start recording the police officer by putting your phone on the dash and this and that, and then you want to say, okay, officer, I'm reaching for my stuff. I'm like, yo, just tell him to put this stuff on the dash. Put everything on the dash. Because that's just the way I do it personally. And so I get kind of annoyed when I see people saying, okay, tell the officer you're going to reach for something in a place where he cannot see. I'm like, yo, we know what happens when people who are scared or have itchy trigger fingers see people reaching into dark areas of the car. Mm-hmm. That's like almost a perfect excuse.
It's like what you just said. It may be smarter to just, in the process of you getting pulled over, stop and pull out everything you think you're gonna need and put on the dashboard. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to reach for anything while the police are there.
Right. I'm not trying to reach for anything because you know what? I have a concealed carry license. I carry a gun. Like, here's something that I'm not afraid of this because I don't have a victim mentality like that. Like, I don't think I'm going to leave my house and get shot, or I'm going to have an encounter with the police today and get killed. That's not the way I'm built. I don't think like that. And I think if you do think like that, you may need, like most of us do, a little bit of therapy because the trauma is real. The trauma is real. And there's no shame in admitting that, if you have fears like that are like bothering you, keeping you up at night, that maybe you should talk to somebody about that.
Yeah.
And someone might get mad and unsubscribe or cancel me for that, but I said what I said.
I mean, I try, I'm the same way. Like, I try not to subscribe to that whole victim mentality thing. And it's hard. Like, it's hard when that's all you see, like day in and day out. Whether it's on social media or on the news or in real life, like it's hard when that's all you see. But it's kind of like, if I move how I'm supposed to, and of course, like how you said, some things are just unavoidable. Some things are going to happen because they were always going to happen. Like, but if you know you're always moving the way you're supposed to be moving, if you're avoiding confrontation, if you're not letting your ego get in the way in situations that you can easily just skirt through and walk out of, like, then, I mean, I don't leave the house thinking I might die today. I leave the house thinking I'm going to come back home. Yeah. So I'm going to do anything that I need to do to get back home. Like, that's it.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, if you inhibit me from getting back home, you might not get back home.
But I'm going home.
I'm going home.
At least temporarily until court.
Hey, I mean, I got firearms insurance. I keep it because God knows. I mean, if you invest money in a gun, you should invest money in training. Exactly. Hit up Fearless Firearms, aka Des, aka Ninadelaflores, and get some insurance because $200 a year or less will try to make sure that you don't have a $200,000 bill when it comes to having to
always say in my classes, like, y'all spend that on bundles, y'all spend that on box braids, like every other month. So is your life not worth that much? Like, is your freedom not worth that much?
Spend the $20 a month.
Spend the
$20 a month. Skip the Chipotle, skip the McDonald's, skip the Soul Food Run. Like, skip it one time. It's not good for you anyway. So, for being real, as much as we love it,
yes, so, hard facts of life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. It's like, man, let's do what we got to do to get home. And if something crazy happens, don't let people say, "Oh well, he had it coming. Oh well, he lived in such a way where that was his lifestyle anyway, so it made sense that something bad would have happened." Like, first of all, I hate to hear that because that's discounting everything the person is today. But do your best to live in such a way that people can't second guess you. People can't question you. Like, I know your mom will always say, your mom is always going to say, "Oh, he was a good kid."
Yeah.
But you make sure that you is a good. You make sure you are a good kid though, because at the end of the day, like, I need you to grow up to be a member of my community. You know, I need you to be one of the old heads, the OGs, just running this place. I don't need to hear about you dying. You know, future leaders just getting killed. And I'm not saying that people won't still act crazy and still put you in a bad situation, period. You know?
It's a hard conversation because sometimes people do everything right and still end up in situations that, like,
and I hope people don't hear me saying that and hear like, oh, well, what about those guys who did everything right?
Well, some people are going to hear what they want to hear anyway. So,
yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, but, you know, like Ricky, it always makes me sad. Boys in the hood, do everything you're supposed to do, still end up in bad situations. It happens. Like, everything isn't avoidable, but you can take steps to make sure, you know, that you're not put in bad situations and that you're not victimized.
I'll tell you what, I think we need to put more effort into actually investing into our young people. You know, like we always talk about like, oh, our schools are trash. Oh, our after school programs don't exist. Oh, our this or that, you know, just complaining. When I say we, different communities that are struggling with different things, but specifically the Black community that is complaining about their situation, you know, I mean, I'm right there. We need to do more to invest in our kids, period, and think of ways to do that. So for myself, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I make sure that I'm actually volunteering and working in positions that I can actually touch the next generation with, you know, wisdom, knowledge, love, all the things that they need to kind of come up to be something other than what's expected. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I train children, and I can't say that I've gotten a lot of pushback about it, but sometimes I do. And they're like, why are you, so the age limit at the range that I train at is 6. And so people are like, why do kids that young, you know, need to even know about guns? Like, why are you introducing them to guns at such a young age? And it's like, I didn't. Because half the time when they get there, they already know about them. So it's like, I wasn't the introduction.
Listen.
The thing is, they had an improper introduction before they got here. So wouldn't you rather them have a proper one? Like, kids are going to get introduced to firearms, whether their parents like it or not. Video games, like TV, watching TV.
I mean, that's the easy one right there. Nerf guns.
You buy them Nerf guns, like you let them play with water guns, so they know the concept of pulling out a gun and pointing it at someone and pulling the trigger. Like, because you not necessarily purposefully introduce them to it, but you inadvertently introduce them to the concept of firearms. So it's like, I'm not the introduction. I mean,
we have a militarized society. Like, we have toys to teach children how to kill. Like,
I have 9-year-old kids that come to me and they already know the gist of guns. Like, they're 9 and they pick it up. Like, one kid even knew all the proper terminology. He was like, this the magazine? He said magazine instead of clip, which
he said magazine.
He said magazine. I was impressed. But he said, it's the magazine. I put the bullets in here, right? He didn't know which way to put it in there, so I showed him. And he put it into the gun. He was like, I'm not going to point it this way. I was like, you're right. Don't point it that way. He pointed it down range, and he pulled the trigger. But as soon as he pointed it down range, he pulled the trigger. So I had to, he knew the concept already. I didn't introduce him to that. I'm just trying to make sure he's safe around guns if he ever encounters one. Like, I'm not teaching him how to kill nobody, but I feel like that's a touchy subject for the Black community, because so many of us are like, guns are bad. Or even my own grandma still jokingly calls me a thug for dealing with guns on a day-to-day basis, because they just have this bad connotation in the Black community. So you immediately think guns, that's a bad person, or guns with kids. Why are you teaching kids that? They don't need to know that. And they need to know how to be safe. Yeah. If you're going to have a gun in the house and not lock it up because you're not taking classes. So
you say, even my grandma calls me a thug. I'm going to take that and put it on a t-shirt. That's crazy.
She does. And I know she's joking, but it's just the fact that it's exactly. Are you down, Grady? It's just the fact that it's the connotation that guns have in our community. Nobody really thinks of it as a good thing. you kind of have to train their brains to see it as a positive thing for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is interesting. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the instructors, or at least a few instructors that I've met, and some that have been on the show, talked about their first time, black instructors specifically, dealing with a gun was in a negative context versus a lot of the non-black instructors, specifically the white instructors that I've dealt with, have the first time they shot a gun. Oh, they were 12, they were 7, they were maybe up down to the age of 4 years old, shooting 22s in the backyard. They got their first BB gun at this age. They bought their first gun as soon as they were legally able to. They've always lived in a free state. They've generally been welcome around such things, and versus a lot of people that I know who are in the firearms community today, but they did not grow up in it, either because they lived in a state where it's urban, like an urban city / state, and it's highly illegal, but yet they still ran into firearms. They still ran into a drug dealer or a gangster or whatever, like a legit thug, and that's the first time they saw a gun, is but before the age of 10 years old, in which, I don't care how old you are, you can be introduced to firearms. However, if you're introduced to firearms associated or affiliated with crime, that tarnishes it, especially when the only time your parents or your grandparents think about firearms and people in your community think about firearms is associated with crime. So when crime happens to them, they don't think, all right, I'm going to defend myself. They think, I got to be a victim. Oh, man, it's a gun. I'm done. Oh, man, hopefully we can survive and we can maybe call the police. Hopefully, maybe.
Or you could have your own.
Or you could have your own and defend yourself and get out of bad situations because you're training.
That's not even an option in so many people's minds.
That's not an option.
I don't know. I'm really trying. I'm trying to change that. But I come from a non-gun family, so I didn't even see a gun like growing up at all in my house. I didn't see a gun for the first time until I was like 18. Yeah, like I never even saw them as kids because I didn't come from a gun family. Nobody owned one. Nobody saw the need to own one. Like I grew up in a neighborhood where like my grandma would just leave her door unlocked all day long, like, and people would just walk in and out because she's well known, like in her neighborhood. So everybody wants to stop by and see Miss Parker, and they just walk in and walk out. Like nobody ever saw the need for it. I never saw them until I was an adult myself. But it's like, it's so many, technically an adult, it's so many kids who get introduced to them way like too young in the wrong way. And that's what scares me, like just from their friends, like they're 14 and 15 years old and their friends came across a gun somehow.
Listen, I've met 14-year-olds who claimed that they had firearms. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, I carry it for protection. I'm like, oh, for real? Okay.
How'd you get it?
Well, like, that's a great question. Like, I don't, at that point, you could ask a bunch of questions or you cannot, but, because you're liable for every little thing you know. That said, I'll leave that there just in case anybody's wondering. I'm going to leave it there. That said, it's crazy. It's crazy because we have, like you said, 14-year-olds who either have or they have friends who have. The first time I saw a firearm, I was probably 12 or 13.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it was this, there was this guy, and it was kind of far away, but I knew what I was looking at. This high school kid who was involved in a bunch of mess. Not a black kid, by the way. Just another kid was involved in a bunch of mess, and he had knives, he had guns. He was a real thug. Like, if we're talking about thugs, he was a thug. And it's like, dang, I was exposed to firearms in the wrong way. Because and the first time I saw a gun up close, like, I'm lying. I shot a gun before that, but I saw a family member with a firearm, and I was like, is that real? What you mean, is that real? Clearly it's real. It was sitting there. It was he had a Glock, probably like a 19 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that real? Just thinking like, that can't be real. Because why would you have that?
Exactly.
The guy was in the military. He was in the military. He can have, I mean, not that only military guys can have firearms. And I think there's a weird misconception in people's minds. Like, oh, if you go to the military, you're going to be super into firearms and you're going to know everything about guns. You're going to know gun laws.
Definitely
not
a
the case.
misconception.
Not the case. And this is no disrespect to all the wonderful men and women who have served, but there's a lot of wonderful men and women who barely touched a rifle. Like they spent most of their time cooking. You know, thank them for I thank them for serving the country in that way.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make you a weapons expert.
I trained a lot. I trained a lot of people who were in the military, like active duty. Like they come when they, I guess, are home. They come for classes and stuff like that. But a lot of them don't know about handguns, which is what you would primarily conceal because they shoot like rifles, like what is it, like M4s or M16s?
Yeah, the M4s and M16s.
Yeah, they shoot those. And so when it comes to handguns, they're just like, it's not familiar. It's like it's a foreign concept. They understand safety. They get the basics because they've handled guns, but they don't really, they don't understand accuracy with a handgun, with a pistol. So it's like definitely being in
harder.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely harder. Being in the military does not automatically make someone a weapons expert. Like, I need people to understand that. Maybe in a particular discipline.
Right. Yeah. Right. There's people who
but not all across
specialize.
The board. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, let's talk about kind of what you have planned next for your business, and then I'm gonna let you go.
You know, first of all, I'm in the process of trying to purchase land. Eventually, I'm going to want to build on it, build my own range. So I'm working on that, saving towards that. But it's like a 5-year plan. It's not like next year I'm going to do this. Just reach more people.
Should definitely keep supporting you.
Yes, and then just reach more people in the Little Rock, Arkansas. Like help more people see the need for firearms and for self-defense and gun ownership, and the need for training, because a lot of people do see the need for guns, but they don't see the need for spending money on training. So, like I'm trying to get people in that mind frame and introduce more people to that. But other than that, I'm just enjoying like being in business for myself and teaching women what I've learned so far, men and women, but primarily women, what I've learned, sharing the knowledge. That's it.
Yeah. For those who made it this far, please keep in mind that if you bought a gun last year during the pandemic, when it was a reasonable time to go buy that first gun, please keep in mind that you do need training, whether you're required to have a license to carry or not. Des is always going on about y'all spend $500 on a handgun, but won't spend $100 on training. And she's joking, but she's being serious, and I'm being serious. Like, serious. This is my serious face. Like, you do need to invest in some training. Yeah. Like, there are some people who they have like they're in gun clubs and they have trainers available to them and this and this and that, and they have mentors and whatnot. That's cool. But invest in some real training that will get you to that next level.
Hands-on training definitely matters. Like, I would even say you can start with YouTube. Like, YouTube is a good resource sometimes. Obviously, you have to vet the people that you're listening to on YouTube, just like you would vet an instructor in real life. But YouTube is a good starting point if you're not ready to jump like head first, hands-on with a gun with an instructor in person. Like, just start watching videos on YouTube. Just learn basic safety. Learn how to clean your particular gun and take it apart. Learn how to look at your sights. Learn how to properly pull the trigger before you go to the range and actually do it, because then at least some of it is familiar. So I'm not even going to discount YouTube videos as a source of education for firearms. Like, you can start there, that's free, but you need some type of hands-on training eventually. Yeah. It's like, you can't just watch YouTube.
Try fire all day.
Yes, you can't just watch YouTube and put the gun at the top of the closet. Like, that's not going to save your life. So you definitely need to go train in person.
It's not going to cut it.
Yeah,
you can watch YouTube videos and dry fire all day in the house, which is just pulling the trigger on an empty gun. But at the end of the day, you do need to invest in hands-on instruction to make sure that you can effectively apply everything that you've been teaching yourself and everything that you've learned in an in-class situation. And there's a lot of stuff that can be talked about in classes, especially with instructors that maybe would kind of cater to you specifically as an individual. You know, 'cause you would not believe how much effort goes into planning one of these classes. I know you and all the other instructors are putting a lot of time into the curriculum to make sure it's worth people's time. Because I think that's been my biggest fear, like at least coming up, is like, okay, well, you know, is it going to be worth my time? I know specifically you do. You put a lot of time into making sure that you're bringing quality. Yeah. So thank you for that.
I try, because we do have, I'm obviously not going to drop any names, but like over the last year or so, I've come to realize that there are a lot of instructors here locally that just don't really care about what people leave knowing. It's more so about, I got paid. So, you know, that's it. It's like, here's your certificate and you already paid me. I don't care if you don't get it yet, but class is over. You got what you came for. Even my mom-in-law, she got her license actually before I became an instructor. So I wasn't the one that issued it to her. But she told me when she went to the range with me for like a private training session, I was teaching her how to, what was I showing her how to do? Align her sights. Mm-hmm. And she was like, no, I was teaching her how to load her magazine. And she was like, he didn't show me how to do this, but he gave her a gun license. Like,
what?
Like, what are you doing? Like, so what if you have to load this at home by yourself? Like, he loaded it for her, inserted the magazine into the gun, racked the slide, and was like, just pull the trigger. Like, that's it. That's it. And then he gave her license. Great. Yeah, effective training. So it's like, I try to do my classes to where people are actually learning something. Even before we go to the range, we do dry fire, like in class, just to show people what that's like. Yeah. And we get the fundamentals down dry. Then we go to the range and practice fundamentals live. It's like, I don't just do everything for them and hand them a gun and say, shoot. That's not training. So be careful about who you're going to for training and what they're actually teaching, what you leave knowing. If all you did was pull the trigger and say, I had fun, then it's like, what did you really learn though? Like, you just shot a gun for the first time. That's it. Like, you could have did that in your backyard. Like, you could have did that by yourself. You know, like, make sure you're actually getting quality training when you go for these licenses and these instructional courses.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, Desstoni, Ninadelaflores, thank you so much for coming on Costly Conversations. For those who want to look you up, who want to see what you're all about, can you tell people how they can find you?
So I just finally made a Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook in like 7 years, but I finally made another page for my business, and it's Fearless Firearm Instruction. That's it.
Fearless Firearms Instructions.
Yes. I'm on... Instruction.
Okay.
Yeah, instruction. I'm on Instagram. It's Ninadelaflores. That just means flower child in Spanish. Like, my mom used to call me that, so it's Ninadelaflores. Like, that's it. People are like, what does it have to do with your business? Like, that's what it means. I just don't want to change it because it's like stuck now. And people have even started like calling me Nina as a nickname, and I just answer to it like whatever. Like, that's cool. That's my 2A name, so I roll with it like whatever. So
that's your 2A name. Yeah, we all have a 2A name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's cool because Nina, like 9mm, like, you know, like the nickname. I get it, and that's why on Twitter my name is 9mm Des. So don't follow me on Twitter if you're like weak-hearted, because
it's spicy on Twitter. It's spicy on Twitter.
But follow me on Twitter if you don't care, or if you want to cancel me and find a reason to. That's cool. If you do not care, follow Ninadelaflores on Twitter. Yeah, if you do not care. But yeah, so just kind of getting back to wrapping it up. You said Facebook and Instagram. Do you have any other? Nothing else. That's it. Facebook,
no YouTube yet.
Instagram, what? Twitter. No YouTube yet. I'm working on it. Okay. Like, I gotta get my setup together. You see, I'm using books. That's my stand. So
we'll just
let me get a stand and a camera. Like, it's okay because I like this book. Like, it's fine. But yeah, I'm gonna work on that eventually.
There you go. Well, people should definitely keep up with what you're doing because you are pretty awesome and you're definitely putting out good wisdom into the world. Not from a bad place either, from definitely a good place. So we appreciate that. Thank you for coming on Costly Conversations. If you want to look her up, definitely check below for the links. If you've made it this far, please go ahead and drop a like on the video if you haven't already. And of course, subscribe. And for those who are listening on the podcast, if you just go ahead and like hit subscribe or follow or whatever the link is, and please share with your friends. And obviously, make sure that if you're in the Arkansas area, I don't care if you got to drive 5-6 hours, go hit up Des, Fearless Firearms Instruction. Make sure that you are helping people out in the community. That's a big deal to me. Des, stay armed and dangerous.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
Thank you.